There we go.
Okay. Got
Okay.
it.
Well, hello everyone. Today we've got something really special for you. We've got a guitar virtuoso himself. It's Mr. Vinnie Moore. Vinnie, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us today.
Thank you. It's great to be talking to you. Good to see you.
Now, before we move on to double exposure and all things present and future for yourself, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back and talk about someone that's quite close to my heart and who I followed through all his bands dating back to 1980, and Paul Raymond. You worked with Paul for a long time. What are your fondest memories of the man?
Ah, man, there are so many, but just overall, the friendships we all had on the tours, on the tour bus, at the shows, and just playing so many shows together and being on stage. And yeah, it's really sad because he
Yeah.
was really happy and that the band was back in high gear. We were rolling along. We had a good tour in the UK, and I know he was floating on a cloud. And yeah, it just happened just after that. But one good thing is I'm glad, it happened when he was so happy with everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was at the Glasgow show, which I think was the last one of the actual run, because we split into two halves, wasn't it? And as you say, unfortunately, he didn't make the second half, so it must have been one of the last shows. And he looked great. He looked fantastic because I was doing photos that night. I remember, and I was trying to focus on him because I say he's been there for that. I've known him for that many years, going back to the 80s and all the bands he's done, and it was an inspiration. And yeah, I love the man. I must admit, I absolutely loved him. So it was, as you say, good to see he went in a high and he was happy. That's the main thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's really sad. The tour just ended, and a week later, I got an email telling me about it. And of course, your heart just drops. It almost doesn't seem real. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the guy looked great, was in great health, and yeah, I'm glad he got to rock for so many years and do what he loved doing. So
yeah,
that's definitely a good thing.
yeah. It'll be very sadly missed. So he will. Now, since we're on it and we're talking about it, UFO, a huge part of your career. What do you take? What do you take from UFO into your solo career?
Into my solo career, I don't know. I think every little thing you're exposed to in your life influences you one way or another. You can't help it. That's just a part of it. Everything's gonna come out. And again, I mean, there are a lot of happy years doing that gig. When I initially got that gig, I thought it might last 3, 5 years most, and here we are 20 years later. And yeah, it was just such a positive thing for me to get out there and play for so many fans all over the globe. And you can't help but be inspired in a positive way.
Yeah.
And not only that, being out on the road with a band, but that band where we all got along so well and had so many good times. It's just such a positive thing for me in whatever I do.
Yeah, yeah. But like that, for instance, the recording side of it, when you go way back to say when you first started with UFO, is there something? I mean, what did you learn from the recording side with UFO that you said, yep, I'm definitely going to do that? And is there anything you went, no, there's no way I'm doing that if I'm doing it?
What, when we were recording?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Not really anything I wouldn't, that it came to the point where, oh no, I can't do that. If there was something, I definitely would have stood up and said, nah, that's a bad idea. But basically when we wrote for those albums, it started with me and Paul, and we would be at home and we would just like start writing some musical ideas. And I think each of us would like scat out some temporary lyrics, some temporary vocals for Phil. I don't know that he often listened to those, to be honest with you. But we'd send him our ideas, and he'd sort through and pick the ones he thought he could do something with, and he'd choose. A lot of times he actually would choose the bluesier stuff,
yeah,
ironically, which was kind of surprising to me. But I guess that's where his heart was at those times. And yeah, and then once he would choose the songs he wanted to work on, and that was like torture getting him to choose sometimes because he's not a guy to make a quick decision. So sometimes it would take a lot to get out of him. But after that, we would go into rehearsals and just start working on the stuff. And often we still wouldn't hear what he was going to do vocally. He liked to keep things secret, and he wouldn't sing a whole lot. He would just listen at the rehearsals and maybe scat down some lyrics. And a lot of times we didn't even hear what he was going to do with the vocals until the album was mixed. It was kind of crazy.
I mean, he's a very powerful man. He's not a big man either. He's not, you know. I mean, I've met him a few times, and there's something in his persona. His voice obviously has been huge. But
right, it's a big voice that's gotten bigger over the years, I think.
Yeah, which is great to see as well.
And we always joke about the size because there's nobody really that tall on stage. I mean, Pete was probably the tallest, but you know, as of lately, it's me, Phil, Rob, and Neil, and we're all like, you know, not very tall guys. So it always kind of looks weird when there's one guy like towering over everybody else, and that's the guy you don't want to get close to. It's like, stay away, man.
That would be Pete. That's the one you don't want to get close to on a stage.
Yeah, he wasn't extremely tall, but like there was something lanky about him. His arms and legs were long.
That's another big persona as well, was our Pete.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A legend, absolute legend. Okay, I'm now going on to Double Exposure. I absolutely loved the album. Thought it was brilliant. But
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. But you did take a different path this time by including vocalists. How did you feel these added to the album?
You know, I've wanted to do a solo record with vocals or a band situation for so long now that I'm just elated that I could finally make it happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, as I've said before, I didn't initially intend for it to be a vocal record. It was just going to be a quick guitar EP thing that I would have put out digitally. You know, since our tours were all grounded, we couldn't do anything. We were at home because of the lockdowns from the pandemic. So I thought I'll just stay busy. I'll get some stuff out there, you know, since the tours have been canceled, and, you know, whatever, just stay busy, get music out there to the fans. And then as I was listening to the demos, I heard one of the songs called One Day, and I started hearing vocals in my head. And I thought to myself, wow, I wonder if I could get one of my friends to sing on that and do like two versions of it, an instrumental version, which is initially was, and then a vocal version. And then I continued listening through all the demos, and I thought, wow, every one of these songs could be a vocal song as well as an instrumental record. And that's where the idea was hatched, to kind of do this dual thing where I would do the guitar instrumental record that I initially intended to do, but that I would also have vocals guest on the songs as well, to do two versions.
Yeah. I mean, what was it, for someone who's done it for so long with just the guitars, was it a hard decision to let someone take on new life with it?
Say again?
So obviously you've been doing it for so long with just the guitars. Yeah. Was it difficult to let somebody else put some new life into it with the vocals?
Oh, no, it wasn't in this case. I've been doing the UFO stuff, so I'm kind of used to way like more of a band situation works. And like everybody, all the four singers that I sent the demos to, when they came back to me with ideas, they kind of hit the nail right on the head. There was no instance, and I was worried there was going to be like a situation where I heard a song and went, oh, that's really good, but that's not what I was going for. Can we try like a different angle? I thought that would happen at least once, but it didn't. Everybody just delivered something that I was really happy with. And I sent all those guys demos with me singing and temporary lyrics. And I told them, you know, if you want to use any of my stuff, use it. But if not, if you want to totally do your own thing, do that. And both things ended up happening, you know, like in Vertical Horizon, Rise, and also River Flow. The singers just did whatever they wanted, their own thing. And I was really happy, you know, what they came up with. And, you know, there were other things like River Flow where Ed used my chorus. In Still Waters, Brian used my B section and my chorus, but you know, it was like a creative process, and we worked on the vocals together a little bit. And also there are times where they just totally did, you know, whatever they wanted.
Yeah. I mean that's great to hear because you get to have this vision as a fan, I suppose, as someone who's written it and it's their little baby and they don't want to let it go, especially if you've done it in your own horizon and there's nobody else in a studio to talk and tell you what to do. It's brilliant to hear
Right.
that you're quite happy to just let it go, and if it works, it works. I mean, was there anything that you maybe turned around and went, no, I don't want that, I want it done differently, or was it you
With the
just
solo stuff?
yeah.
No, everything I heard, everything, and just thought it was, right in the ballpark. And in a couple songs, there might have been a little nuances where I said, well, what if you phrase this a little differently or change this melody? But really, there wasn't a whole lot of that back and forth kind of stuff.
Right.
But when you're,
on you go.
I was going to say, when you're creative with someone, there's always a little bit of a push and pull back and forth kind of thing. And you feed off of maybe something they came up with, or they feed off of something that you came up with. And then it kind of develops like that, with two people putting in input.
I take it was all that was all done remotely. Was it the vocals?
Yeah, it was all done remotely, which is pretty much the way the UFO stuff happens too, even though we get together to rehearse. I've gotten to the point where I recorded all the guitars here at home in my studio for the UFO stuff. And, everybody, some people like to be together, but they also like time alone to get creative too. Yeah. And I'm the kind of guy, when I'm actually tracking guitars or writing, being creative, I like to be in my own little environment with, nobody around to bother me. And I think Phil is like that a lot too. And I think Andy's more of the guy who likes everybody together because he's the drummer, and that's what they're always like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's different for everybody, the way they feel comfortable as far as the way they feel like to work or whatever.
Do you feel there's more pressure on you when it's a solo project as opposed to, say, UFO?
Yeah, definitely. And I noticed that especially on going on tour. You feel like the weight's all on your shoulders, where when you go out as a band, like you all kind of share the responsibilities and the pressure together. So it's kind of easier to deal with it. You're a team, and it's like things go well as a team or they don't go well, but we take it as a team. And, when it's only you as a solo artist, it's harder because you bear more of the responsibilities, of course.
Do you like obviously the same way you're taking it on tour, do you like the interaction side of it as well?
With the band members?
No, with likes of the fans, because you're becoming, you basically are becoming the Phil of the band. You're the front of that band. And so you will deal an awful lot more with fans and requests, I take it, in interviews. And, how does that fit with you?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I started out like at a really young age doing guitar clinics, and I'd play with backing tracks. And so it would be only me up there. And that's kind of crazy because everybody there is looking at me and my fingers. And I kind of got used to that, but it's not the most comfortable scenario to be in. I'd rather be on stage with a bunch of other people. And so everybody's kind of checking everyone on stage out. But, with my solo stuff, I do get a lot of that. It's more like I'm the singer, people are looking at me most of the time, but I'm just happy there's the bassist and the rhythm guitar player there and drummer, so other people can kind of, focus on them too. But yeah, I do get a lot of that, and it's a little bit more pressure. I kind of like when it's a band situation, and maybe on the next tour I'll get all very pretty girls in my band, and that way no one will look at me. I can just play over on the side.
No, you'll still have all the guitar players in the audience looking at you.
Yeah, exactly.
You wear a mask or something.
That would be a good idea.
So, I mean, are you looking to, will you at any stage do the singers on stage with these songs? Obviously, you'd probably not get the four guys together for it, but would you take a singer on tour to cover these songs, or?
Yeah, we're looking at tour dates for the spring, and I definitely want to get out there and do some shows and be able to include these vocal songs. You know, I could do some instrumental stuff, some vocal stuff. I could even do a couple songs that I've written with UFO theoretically, you know.
Yeah,
I haven't planned on it too much, but we'll see how it shapes up.
excellent,
But it's
excellent.
something I definitely like to do.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Now, going back to the album again, for me, there was so much blues going through the album, right? And blues, I love my blues. Do you listen to a lot of blues now? And if so, who's your go-to blues guitarist?
Well, I listen to things, all different styles of music at all times, so it's scattered, it's all over the place. When I was like really into blues growing up, it was Albert King. There was an album in the house that belonged to my stepdad. It was Live Wire Blues Power, and I was going through his albums and I saw that. And I thought, I'll give that a listen, and I did, and it blew me away. So Albert was one of the first guys that I heard, and he's just amazing. And of course, he's been a big inspiration to Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I love Stevie's playing. Um, Freddie King, I found out about him later. Love his playing. BB King, so the Three
Yeah,
Kings,
yeah.
and there's so much good stuff out there. You can go back to the early Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson kind of stuff, but I don't know. Albert King and probably Freddie King have always been the guys where I relate to the most.
Yeah. What about do you Rory Gallagher? Has he ever fitted into to your?
Yeah, I was really into Rory back in the day. I had the photo finish record was my favorite. I had calling card and a couple other ones, and yeah, it's definitely really great stuff. I liked his playing a lot.
Yeah, yeah. There's also a lot of I don't know if you get a chance to hear it, a lot of the young bands coming out now, young blues bands with some amazing guitarists. I don't know if you've kept up that way or you're whether you steep back in the originals.
There's so many guys out there that are playing blues again. Like blues is in fashion. It's great. Eric Gales is amazing. Of
I
course, Joe
caught Eric
Bonamassa.
I caught Eric last year live. Incredible. So he was absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that blues is like cool again, because there was a period maybe in the 80s and 90s where you didn't really hear much about those kind of players, and there's been a resurgence, and that's great.
It's good. It's good to hear. But I say I just love the way that you slot it in. It's not necessarily a blues song, but you will have it in there, and it just runs deep through it. Love it. I love it. This one's for the fans, I suppose. But can you tell us how you would go about writing a song? Where does it come from? Is it just a pick up of the odd riff, or is it more structured?
I've been doing it for like decades now, and I really don't know any more about it than I did in the beginning. I've gotten better at it. I've honed my skills, and I've learned how to record the ideas when they're there, because it's a feast or famine type of thing. You might come up with some great things for a week, and then there's like a famine where you can't come up with anything. But the one thing I do know is if I try to write, it doesn't usually work for me.
Yeah.
It more happens to me when I'm doing something else. I just play guitar, and then an idea will pop out, and I'll go, "Oh, that's really cool," and I'll be inspired by it. I'll feel something, and then I'll start to expand on it. Once I get that initial inspiration, I usually get related ideas also, and it sort of kind of builds. And at a certain point, I mean, back in the day, I used to put them on my cassette recorder. I had a little Walkman, but
Yeah.
now I just use my phone.
Yeah.
And once I have enough ideas for one song, I'll go to my studio, lay down a drum beat, and start to record all the ideas. And then it starts to take shape, as far as the parts and the structure. I'll add things, get rid of things. Often what happens is I have too many ideas for one song. And so I'll have to kind of like decide which parts to not use, which can be challenging. And it just sort of happens, you get kind of lost in the moment and go with the flow. And it's better when you're really kind of unaware of the process. It's almost just like happening as opposed to thinking too much, going, what could I do next? As soon as like I have a part and I try to come up with a second part, I'm like, where do I go from here? How do I follow this first part? And I'm thinking about it. I can't really come up with anything. It's just sort of just has to happen.
Yeah. And are you happy to, once you've got a song, just to put it to bed, or do you keep tinkering with it, or is it a case of no, it's in your head, it was what you wanted and that's it?
I keep thinking about it. I obsess, and it's not even by choice. Like if I'm working on a song, I might like finish for the day. I might be at the gym. I might be laying in bed, and the song is like playing over and over in my head without me being aware of it. I'm like, why is this happening? This song is possessed. And it doesn't go away until I finish the song and I start on another song. Then I'll start obsessing about that song. It's the same if I'm doing like any kind of work. Like I work like working with wood
Right.
sometimes and doing projects around the house. And if I'm working on something, I'll be in bed at night thinking about, okay, how am
Yeah.
I going to lay this out? How do I measure this? How do I get this to be square? And it's like I don't want to be thinking about it, but it's just there. It's kind of strange.
Now, do you lose that completely once it's recorded, or do you sit and maybe listen to it afterward and go, "Oh, I wish I had done whatever"?
I lose the being obsessed with it, but I don't listen to my own music a whole lot. It's kind of makes me uncomfortable, and it's almost torture in a way because, as you said, I'll listen back and go, "Oh, I should have done this there." I'll keep writing, and it's like at some point you
Just
just
leave
gotta
it.
have to let it go. It's done.
I get that. I get that. Okay, so what's next for Vinnie Moore? Do you still have goals to achieve? And are you a man who just can't rest, so you have to be doing something?
I have to be doing something. If I'm like goal oriented, I have to be working on something, working towards something. If not, I just feel like a loser. What am I have to be working. And so I'm working towards doing some touring coming up, and I have some song ideas, like a bunch of song ideas, and I want to do another vocal record more with a band situation. So that's on the horizon also. So there are some things to look forward to in the near future.
Good, good, good to know. Now, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I have got one last question for you, and this is purely for me.
Okay.
And basically, because the question I'm going to ask you about is, to me, is God. You worked with Alice Cooper. What was it like working with the man?
It was a lot of fun. The band was really good. I think it was one of his best bands ever. Eric Singer on drums, Steph Burns on guitar, Greg Smith on bass and backup vocals, Derek Sherinian on keyboards. And it was a really tight band. And Alice was really a down to earth, really nice guy. So it was fun to be around him. We'd often play poker on the tour bus. And it was just fun being on stage playing those old songs that I grew up hearing. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah, it must have been great. As I said, just with that stage show that he always has, and as the fans are crazy daft, and no,
Oh yeah, the people in the front row with the pythons around their neck.
yeah, yeah, it's great. But everybody I speak to is always says he's brilliant. It's great to work with. Well, thank you very much for your time
Thank
tonight.
you.
I absolutely loved it. Great to get a bit of an insight into you. Now, I don't know, will we see you over the UK side, do you think, again soon?
I've been touring Europe, but for the last few years at least, I haven't been there as a solo artist, and so I really need to get back there. So I sure as heck hope so, and
We'd love to see it.
hopefully it's coming up soon.
We'd love to see it. Well, again, thank you very much for your time. Absolute pleasure speaking to you. And take care and good luck in everything that you do, Vinny.
Same to you. Thanks very much. Good
Thank
talking to
you
you.
very
I
much.
appreciate it. Best of luck.
Okay.